Namaste. I was in class many years ago when I was a little boy, and students were doing Upavishta Konasana, legs spread apart, bending forward. The teacher came and aggressively pushed down on everybody. One lady this is in India, where it's warm, and one lady who must have been in her 40s at the time, she recently passed away, in her 80s. As the teacher was pushing her down, we heard this unbelievable noise, like that. It was so loud, everybody got startled and got up. The hamstrings had torn off the ischial tuberosity completely. The entire hamstring had gone off, and the hamstring was sitting, bulging right there in the middle of the thigh. One of the most stupid and dangerous things a teacher can do is push a student in forward bends. So your first rule, never push a student in forward bends. In our teacher training manual, it's in bold print and all caps in the chapter on forward bends. I've seen it happen so many times. Not just this one time when I was in the room, but many other times I've heard the same story. Teachers who push students in forward bends. So do not push a student in forward bends. And also the hamstrings are vulnerable at the ischial tuberosity. Much more so than they are below the knee, where they attach to the lower leg. In fact, I had a student in Boise who came to me because he was water skiing. And during one of the bumps, he was a very stiff guy, one of the bumps, he felt this pain in his hamstrings. And by the time he had reached shore, his hamstring had detached from the ischial tuberosity, and he came to me with it. And I took a photo of him lying on his belly, and there's this big bump in the middle of his back thigh, and that was his hamstring. It had torn off the top and gone to the bottom. And he did not know it had happened, so he didn't go to the doctor. And if you go to the doctor within an hour or two, they can sew it back. But after that, they cannot. It cannot be sewn back. So it was there for the rest of his life, this big hamstring blob sitting on the bottom of his thigh in the back. So as yoga teachers, we have to be careful. Do no harm first. So now, let's talk about when it is safe. Straighten out your legs. So watch Stephanie. This is your first indicator. So if you look carefully, I'm looking at the screen so that I make sure that you can see what I see. Look at Stephanie's sacrum. Her sacrum is tilted slightly forward. Can you tilt it more forward, Stephanie? Bad. You can tilt it more forward. At this point, I am okay with Stephanie bending forward for forward bends. You, as the teacher, have to take the responsibility for seeing the sacral position relative to the floor for forward bends. Come back up, please. Now, if your hamstrings are very tight, your pelvis will go the other way. More. There. This is the position of the average person. Or actually, it's a little worse than that. But the pelvis is now no longer 90, no longer tipping forward, but tipping backward. And when the pelvis tips backwards, I have no business asking the student to go forward. It's going to damage their lower back. So the alternative is to pad. Put pads underneath the buttocks, until relative to the floor, the pelvis is tipping forward. So please remember these two things and be careful and watchful when you teach forward bends. There are far more injuries in forward bends than in back bends. That's all for today. Namaste.